sick. And what it does, it cripples us. It puts us in such a fearful state that we cannot respond. We cannot take action. So today, we hope that at the end of this discussion, we can understand that there's more than one type of fear. There's some fears that are really needed in our lives, but there are fears that we can combat and counter by being in the right environment, where we can be taught and learn how to manage the body's emotional response to those fears and how our brain responds, and now putting us in a position where we can stop, control, reverse the conditions, the adverse conditions we find ourselves in globally as a people.
Thank you, Brother Johnny. Sister Shannon, how are you doing today?
I am well, thank you. Okay, with regard to fear, for me, I would say insecurity, and the problem that most have is we are having relationships in another's image, using their terms, their conditions, their expectations of relationships. We have an ability to examine the relationship, and we're in denial. So many of us now, if you are not in a relationship, you're deemed almost an anomaly. There's something wrong with you, and most don't think, examine, check the person out before they go into these relationships. I know of some couples, one particular lady told me, oh, I got married because she wanted a house and she could not qualify. And the person that she chose, he was abusive. And she stayed in that relationship because she needed a home. She needed a roof over her head. In a relationship to cope. She couldn't pay the bills, society, and their ideas of what relationship should be. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sis. Councilman Mansour. Sorry, Councilman, we're not able to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When we're talking about fear, Abbas wrote about the 6 different types of fear and the spirits of fear. I was just sent for the book so I could read it, but hey, it will come. If it comes, it comes.
Okay.
But we have to understand that the different aspects of fear. Fear is, you know, it's a thing like, have you just heard about how it can affect you, how it makes you feel, right? It causes anxiety within us. I don't know how to put it, but when you get frightened, right, and it's a fright, it heightens, and it makes us look at other things and put other people above us. I try to understand fear and try to eradicate fear from your life, and it's not easy because you've been taught as a youth, as a child, you know, the little things in the dark to fear, to fear God, you know, or you get smite, all these different fears that are put into us wrongly. We've got to understand that these different spirits of fear that come amongst us, that make us, and we say spirit, we say the personalities of fear, which take over our body, which stops us from going forward, because fright, you're frightened what somebody might say about you. As you said, you're frightened of what might happen if you're frightened. When in effect, we should really just say, you know what, I'm concerned with these things, but I'm not afraid of these things. If if we make fear, the reason why Abba just said, face everything and respond, is because if things that you're frightened to do, those are the things you should do. You know what I'm saying? Things that
Yes.
inhibits you, those are the things you should say, okay, that's what I'm going to do the most in order to make sure that this doesn't stop me. Thank you, my brother. Right?
Yes.
As you can see, it said the first spirit of fear is the spirit of what? Infirmity, whereby there exists a spirit which causes some members of humanity to react to a basic trials by getting mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically sick. You get yourself sick.
Mhm.
That's right.
People make themselves sick. Sometimes you go to a doctor and all it is anxiety or the fact that I'm afraid to go outside. I'm afraid to do certain things.
Yeah.
Yes? I'm not going to go through all of them because I've spoken already. The second
Yes.
spirit of fear is a spirit of compromise, whereby there exists a spirit which causes you to waver and to become what? Double-minded in order to hopefully gain only the material gratification which are desired, instead of appreciating those things which are needed and knowing that all beneficial desires are obtainable. If we but put true religious identity and goals, that's gone, and goals first, then these are the things that we can achieve, right? Goes towards the service of the Most High Everyone and Neire for the betterment of humanity. This we teach, for surely experience, evidence, and reason as confirmed that a double-minded person is one whose life is unstable in all ways. So we got to understand fear is something that hinders our growth. If I'm correct, my Basesh, this book is in what? The fear in what book?
Slave
It's
mind.
an art of
Slave mind. Thank you.
yes.
So if you've got the slave mind, if you haven't got the slave mind, seek it out. It explains all of it. Like I said, it's 6
Yes.
levels of different forms of fear
Yes.
that affect us and infect us. Yes?
Right.
Yes. Thank you, Kahun.
No problem.
Now, in your presentation, you spoke about the spirit of fear, and you spoke that fear is not of us, that it's the adverse Greco-Roman spirit force of Zula. Now,
Yes.
I want to take a different approach with this, right? Just like how, so this doula then, should we call this doula white fear? And if we call it white fear, what are white people fearful of?
Is that a question to me?
It is a question, yes, sir.
Right, thank you. We'll be surprised. White people are afraid of what we can do if we only wake up, if we only realize our potential, if we understand that they're not as strong as they seem to be. Meaning they send this image and they do it through fairy tales, they do it through movies, they do it through the comics. They show themselves as being so great and dominant and powerful. And so that we sit there and go, oh, with our mouth open. And then, as I said before, when you're in the workplace and you see this little runt that's telling you to do this, do that, do this, and you fear to lose your job, you feel the repercussions. But the white man realizes that if you realize how powerful you really are mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically, then you will be running the planet. We've got to just take a step at a time and remove the fear from within us so that we can start to go forward. Teach our children, you know what? You're the best. You're strong. Don't worry about what happens in school. I've got you. and get them to ride that fear, get past that fear, recognize that it's not really fear, it's just is fright different. And things you're frightened of are the demons. So let's put the demon aside. Let's put those things aside. And they're frightened to see, or they fear you developing to your potential, even to a small amount of your potency. They know they're in trouble. That's what they fear.
Thank you, Rod. Brother Attorney, is there anything else which we should realize concerning fear?
Listen, there's so much around this topic of fear. And, you know, John Henry Clark says this whole idea of it taxes the mind, it taxes the imagination, because fear is a weapon that I call them the suppressors, that they use to maintain their power and authority over us. Because the more we see those who don't look like us as being the experts, they're the experts when it comes to religion. They're the experts on economies and how to make money and how money works. And they're the experts on what's the best type of jobs you should have. And they're the experts on sex and gender relations. And they're the experts on warfare. And they're the experts on what's the best entertainment and the best food. And when you see them as the expert, you're saying they have all the knowledge. See, when you don't have knowledge of a thing, fear develops. If I'm in my bedroom and it's dark and I think there's something in the closet, I have fear. But when I turn the light, the knowledge tells me there's nothing there. So the fear no longer grasps me, right? So what we have to do is we have to now become knowledgeable. Knowledgeable, not on our own, because we need an environment. We need, just like how fear can be passed down through our genetics and something called epigenetics, and we have the memory of fear encoded within us. We have the memory of greatness. We have the memory of those things that overcome fear within us as well. We have those great teachers that wrote all of those great books and left those teachings for us, that gave us the playbook. We're talking about a playbook. African Holocaust Month is a playbook. This isn't about creating an environment where we're hopeless. We want to know when we leave here, what do we do to change the condition of our people? I'm tired seeing the images of our people all over the world at the bottom. And when we continue to go to the oppressor, to the enslaver as the expert, we cripple ourselves more in the state of fear. It's a condition. It's the condition that we put ourselves in. So we have to get the knowledge. We have to become knowledgeable of what those weapons are that are being used against us, disguised as fear.
Exactly, yeah.
And then when we come together as a group, we understand that we're in an environment where we have individuals that can give us the playbook. Well, I'm not here trying to create a playbook.
No.
I understand that we have individuals in this organization that tell us and give us the blueprint on how we deal with fear, how we address trauma in our lives, how we get that spirit force out of our lives so it doesn't have the power, how we look to ourselves and those that look like others as the authority. I'm not going to look to no one who don't look like me to tell me how I should interact with my wife. Right. You've got to be crazy. You don't know what I'm going through. You don't even identify with what is racism today. You don't understand. You telling me, forget about it. Can't you just let it go? Do the Jews let it go? 6 million died in the Holocaust. 35 million Africans died in the slave trade in a few years. 12 million sold in slavery. You want me to forget, and you don't forget? You remind the world every year. Every year you do 6, 8, 10 movies. They'll tell everyone about it, because the more their people get the knowledge of what happened to them, it identifies who the perpetrator is to them, and it gives them that power back. It turns the energy of fear on itself, and now they use it to fuel. They have one voice. They know what they're about. They have one mission. It's not going to happen to us again. And when they see the signs of those things happening, they snip it in the bud. We got to learn how to recognize the signs, not as an individual, but as a collective group of people.
Yes.
So this thing of fear is nothing to play with, but we have the playbook. That's why I don't see much institutions, Black institutions, having events like this. This is why this is so important to be a part of what we're doing. Because we are giving our people the ability to have power. Power is the ability to get things done, to be active and take action. We are no longer living in the spirit of fear. We are living in the spirit of action. You see, liberation is a present activity. It takes a now mentality. You got to do it now.
Thank you, Brother Johnny. Sister Sharon. Is
Yes,
she
ma'am.
there? Hi.
Yes.
So,
Can you,
yes, we can hear you. Thank you. White fear. How does it manifest itself? What are some of the examples that we can give of what white fear looks like?
okay, white fear. One thing is they always have to inject themselves into Black spaces, Black conversations. It doesn't matter that it has absolutely nothing to do with them. They will find a way to make sure that they not only inject themselves, but they also become the subject of the conversation. That's happened to me on several occasions. It's not their, what I would say, their genetic inferiority. They know that they are inferior to us, so they use every means to inject themselves, make themselves the conversation. And like Basesh says, they become the villain, the victim, and also the hero. All of the movies, the white hero. If you have a Black hero, he is sidelined. He is the sidekick. With regard to politics, they make sure that what their asili is given to you. In the Bahamas, we so-called became independent, 1973. But most of what is in that was never written by us. That was taken from the British Constitution, and they just changed one or two things, gave it back to us, and our founding fathers signed off. We don't have a constitution made for us. They determined what that was, so they are still controlling. With regard to finances, we just got blacklisted by France. They gave us, we have so many regulations that we have to follow. But if you go to France, most of the European countries, the United States, they don't have those regulations that they force on us at all. I need 2 to 3 IDs here. They can travel with 1. Go into the bank, get served. I need my 2 or 3 IDs, and this is another Black person telling it to me. But a white person comes in there, they're fine. 1 ID and it's a driver's license. How easy is it for you to duplicate a driver's license, a false one? Relationships, again, they make themselves the subject. They tell us what to do. All of a sudden now it is the interracial relationships. Commercials, you cannot see a commercial. 5 out, well, I would say 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10, you will see an interracial couple. All of a sudden, no, you need to have this relationship. No Black relationships are shown. The movies, same thing. They know their genetic survival depends on us. So they inject themselves in every facet. Adoptions. They go to Africa. They adopt these children. God help them. Right now, a little boy adopted by a movie star, he's now a girl in a dress. They twist everything for their comfort. I cannot leave the Black man the way he is. He will dominate me. So I will use every facet to pull him down below my level so I feel comfortable. That's it.
Thank you, sis. They were very interesting and very on point stuff that you made mention of there just now. So let's move on further. You hit on some rights there, right? The removal of ethnic minority rights. I'm going to read off 2 quotes and then I'm going to ask a few questions. Right? The first quote is from Leo Tolstoy, and he says, "Wrong does not cease to be wrong because the majority share in it." And then we have another quote from Samuel Adams, where he says, "It does not take the majority to prevail, but rather an irate, tireless minority, keen on setting bushfires of freedom in the minds of men." Sean, you're in the legal profession. What is the legal definition of ethnic minority? Can we bring up, if we could bring up online dictionary? Sorry, Sean, we can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, ethnic minority, that is a group of people within a country that is less than, or their numbers are lower than others. Say Blacks in the United States, African American, they make up 13% of the United States. Whites make up another, I say 56%. So they would call Black people the ethnic minority. However, if you look worldwide, we are the majority.
Right.
That's just another tactic that they use, separate you.
What are some rights of the minority that are presently being impacted, and how are they impacting the minority?
Rights of minority, one, with regard to education. They have started, and I think it's in the last 10 years, ADHD. Predominantly Black children, especially Black boys, are diagnosed with that. And that is one part of their school to prison pipeline. Once you are diagnosed with that, they in turn put you in a remedial class. And from there, drugs, which affect your body, you act out, you never catch up. Crime, you get put into, as we call it, detention. And from there, you slip. And it's a downhill spiral from there. With regard to ethnic minorities, housing. They make sure that the father is not in the home when they give the mother, when she goes to the government for assistance. However, the same is not required of a white woman. A white woman gets more funding than a Black woman for her children. Medicine, Black women, pregnancies right now, they are in danger. Most of them, well, not most of them, but there's an increase of mothers dying during childbirth, Black mothers. They don't give the same attention to them. One particular case would be the tennis player Serena Williams. With all the money that she has, private hospital, she had to get out of her sick bed, walk to them, insist that they check her. She had a condition and it could have killed her. But if she had not done that, she would have been dead within a day or so or less. She's well known, rich, did not matter. She's a minority and they treated her as such.
And before you go on any further, I want you to identify who are these people calling minority? Who's a minority? Am I a minority?
As I'm concerned, no, we're not. We are the majority in the world. The minority are the Caucasians, the Anglo-Saxons, as we call them, the whites. The minority are the Chinese, the Arabs. They are the minority. We are the majority.
But who are
They're
they referring to as the minority?
Pardon?
Who are they, the Europeans, the Caucasians, referring to as a minority in most cases when they say
In most
minority?
cases, it would be Black people or people of what they would say? Yeah, Black people or colored people. And that's only specifically, they won't say it worldwide. They will always choose country-wise, they separate you because they have to. That's
so we are very special people then for them to make laws that are impacting us then.
That's the only way they can control us. They have to control us by the laws and through separation.
Yes.
If we ever come as a collective, they know it's over.
Brother Owen, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, you have to understand that the environment plays a key role in what we see happening. We are being intentionally put in the conditions that foster and breed this prison pipeline that Sister Shan just mentioned.
Yes.
And our people are being deliberately miseducated so that they become susceptible to the realities of being labeled with the stereotypes they put on our people. So when you have, see, we don't even know what education means. If you look at the etymology of education, education talks about rearing of a child. It talks about morals and ethics, codes of conduct. So it's telling us how we are supposed to act within a certain environment. We think education is just math and English. No, education is encompassing all levels of people activity. We call it Rel Cell Web that we got from the great Neely Fuller. So when you look at our children and our people are in these environments where they're cramped together, they are undernourished deliberately, they have drugs and crime in the environment deliberately. We are being miseducated intentionally. We have no knowledge of self. We have no leaders there that's going to bring any real conversion to the people. So now we have those children going to school. We have individuals leaving those communities and they carry all of that emotional trauma with them. And it lashes out because you cannot be in an environment like that and it does not affect you on an emotional level, because we will respond to the emotional responses that our body gives us. And now we have to counter that by finding our environment. You see, if I found someone that never saw a fish in their life, and I took a fish and I throw it on the tile and the fish starts flapping, the person say, that's a dumb animal, right? But I take that same fish and I put it in the water, it's a genius. Mm-hmm. When we operate outside of our natural environments, we lose our minds. Put us in the right environment where our culture, our way of life, gives us the boundaries of how we're to act. It gives us the right education. It tells us how we pray, when to pray, what to eat, what not to eat. See these books right here?
Yeah.
These books is about re-educating our people. It's about creating that culture that our great Marimba Annie speaks about, that provides the inoculation, that allows us to combat the spirit of fear, that allows us to put in a position so that we can rightly manage our own fate. We want to govern ourselves and rule ourselves. So we have to know who we are. There's a book we have called the 12 tribes. You want to know that we have a genetic link to all of these spiritual documents that people are talking about. It's talking about us.
Yeah.
We talk about that in that epigenetics in this book, the ancients and the attributes within us, because we have to know that we have a lineage of great ancestors within us that we need to understand and recognize. How do we tap into that? We have a book on what to eat. We have to know that when we eat certain foods out of balance, it causes an imbalance in the hormonal response, putting us in a state where we get sick. We don't have the energy or the willpower to put into liberation things. Like Kawan Mantu said, we become distracted doing all sorts of things.
All sorts of things.
So we have to put ourselves in an environment where this becomes the rearing of our people. I don't care how old you are, education and the right education can always happen. So we have to now use right education in the right environments, in the right institutions, under the right guidance, so that we can put ourselves in a position where we don't go to those who do not have our best intentions. I don't want them to educate me. I don't want them to treat me medically. I don't want them to give me no relationship advice. I don't need them to tell me how to make money. If we come together as a people, and we pool our resources, and we support each other's businesses, we don't need to go outside of this environment to have a living, to make a good living. Chinatown exists whether the European goes into Chinatown or not.
Mhm.
So we have to do the same things for our people. And we have to understand that it's an urgent situation that we have to act on now. Because if we had physical chains on our wrists and shackles on our ankles, we would act with desperation to be loosed. Just because we don't see those chains, that don't mean they're not there and not on our minds as well. So we have to act with urgency and now get the right knowledge in the right environment so that we get power to govern and create the environments and the life that we want for ourselves and our children.
Thank you, Brother Owen. This panel is hot today. I'm loving it. Okay, so right now what we're going to do is we're going to take a commercial and we're going to come back and deal with the rise of the far right. So we'll be back after these messages.
So like you say, the violence of groups like the Ku Klux Klan or the historical red shirts, skinheads, right? Neo-Nazis, the Nazis.
See, the emancipation of slavery was a threat to the social hierarchy in Latin America, so white elites came up with a plan to systemically, physically, and culturally wipe out Black people. How did the region do it? Mass white European immigration while banning the immigration of non-whites. The goal was for future generations to no longer have visibly Black and Indigenous people, so that the national identities in these new nations would be associated with whiteness. In this period, elites aimed to make Black people disappear through their gradual absorption into the white race.
Get Out is amassed in years. They were chasing after Black people for their bodies, claiming they would make fine vessels for their old, sick, and dying white folks.
Oh, no.
This movie uses horror and an eerie plot to